You're listening to Taste for Truth Weight Loss Encouragement. I'm your host, Barb Raveling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have all of you here today, and I'm also excited that we are 6 days out from the launch of my new book, Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating. There is still a chance to get in on the pre-order bonuses. Go to saygoodbyetoemotionaleating.com after you order the book, and you can sign up for those pre-order bonuses. And I also wanted to let you know this book is also going to be out in audio. And you know me, I'm all about writing down the answers to the questions or, writing out your truth journals. I feel like we learn more when we use all of our senses, including writing, when we renew our minds. But that said, you don't always have writing available. And sometimes it's nice to renew your mind while you work, while you drive, while you go on walks. And so it is available as an audio book. Okay, so in today's podcast episode, we are going to go through one of the renewing exercises in Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating. There's 100 renewing exercises, and I have truth journal entries, I have scripture meditations, I have option charts, abandon charts, anyway, all kinds of different ways to renew your mind. So today we'll do the renewing exercise that's called When You Feel Like a Weight Loss Failure. And I'm guessing you guys have felt like that. I have felt like that, so many millions of times in my life. So this is when you find yourself saying, I can't believe I'm still struggling with this weight. I should be over it by now. Okay, right? Don't we often say that? This is one of the things women say to me more often than anything else, maybe. There's this idea that once we reach a certain age, we should be mature, we should be over all of our problems by now. But here's the thing, guys. Until we die, we're going to have some sort of struggle. Everybody has it. So there's nothing wrong with us that we're struggling with something. And when you think about eating, it's not surprising we have it all together. After all, we love food. We eat for emotional reasons. And this isn't a goal we can check off our list and say, there, that's done. Instead, we need to keep following our boundaries day after day, month after month, year after year, and actually trial after trial. Because a lot of times we feel like, we've got this under control. And then we have some new trial that pops up in our lives. And there we are going to food again because that's kind of our go-to. So this is not surprising. Here's the thing though. We are not weight loss failures. Let me say that again. We are not weight loss failures. Instead, we're people who broke our boundaries today. Or maybe we're people who've been breaking our boundaries for a week or so, or more than a week. It's important to make that distinction in how we talk to ourselves. Because if we define ourselves by failure, then we feel like there's no use going on. We might as well just give up right now, start eating what we want because we are weight loss failures. So we have to remember, no, we're not weight loss failures. We are a person who failed at following our boundaries. And then it'd be better to look at why we failed. And then we can correct ourselves so we're less likely to fail tomorrow. Okay, we can correct ourselves by looking at how we spend our days. For example, here I am in New Hampshire as I record this. We're in a small 2-bedroom apartment. I don't have a car. I don't have friends in town, even though we have a wonderful church, and I go to a really great Bible study on Tuesday nights, and I just love the people in my church. But it's not like I'm back in Montana with lots of friends and ways to fill up our days. And not only that, I'm working on the book launch for this book. And surprisingly, even though I'm working on a book launch about Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating, that makes me want to eat. So I can look at, how do I spend my days? Okay, maybe I need to develop some new routines. I need to get out of my apartment. I can't stay in the apartment all day. So what do I need to do to keep myself from giving in to emotional eating? Okay, you guys are in different life situations, so think about, how do you spend your days? Okay, also think about what food is in the house, because if you're going through a hard time in your life, if you have any food in the house that will tempt you to emotionally eat, you're going to be far more likely to do that. So you might want to have somebody hide your food or just not have it in the house. Okay, also look at what we do when life is hard. How do we respond to trials in our lives? And of course, if you're listening to this, one of the ways you probably respond is by emotional eating. And then what do we do when we break our boundaries? So in this podcast episode, we'll look at what we do when we break our boundaries. Okay. So here you go. Picture yourself. You're following your boundaries. Life is going great. You're on your weight loss program. You're all excited about losing weight. And then one day something happens. Some sort of trial, probably something that went wrong in your life. Or it could be a celebration, could be a vacation, a holiday. And all of a sudden, your weight loss program is not going well. You're breaking your boundaries and you're feeling like a weight loss failure. Okay. You now have 5 options of what to do next. Okay, first option is just give up. Quit trying to follow your boundaries. Eat what you want for the rest of the day, or better yet, for the rest of the week. Or you actually could do this for the rest of your life. You could just say, you know what? I'm not going to worry about my weight anymore. I'm just going to embrace it. I'm going to eat what I want and see what happens. Okay, that's one option. Another option is to keep trying to follow your boundaries, but persevere in your own strength. So with this option, you'll get up the next morning and say, I'm going to follow my boundaries today. But then you don't go to God for help when you break them. And, this is often what we do. We say, all we need to do is just say, I'm going to do it, and we're going to do it. But this only works with things that we have natural self-control with, or things where God has changed us enough that we have spirit control. But if we haven't gone to God for help with all that changing, and we don't have the spirit control, and we don't have natural self-control, persevering in our own strength is a recipe for discouragement because we can't do it, right? Okay, the third option is to keep trying to follow our boundaries, but persevere in God's strength by asking Him to change you. So for this one, all we're doing is prayer. We're just saying, God, can you change me? God, can you take away my desires? God, can you help me? And you guys, even though talking to God is good, asking God for help is good, this one actually doesn't work. At least in my experience, it does not work. Instead, it's a partnership. Sanctification is a partnership. Salvation is a one-time experience, but sanctification is a partnership, and God expects us to be involved in the process. And He expects us to do things. And He says in the Bible how we want to be changed as we're transformed by the renewing of the mind. So third option doesn't work. At least it doesn't work in my experience. Okay, fourth option is to keep trying to follow our boundaries and persevere in God's strength by prayer, asking Him to help us, like the last option. And then also we'll throw in renewing our mind every once in a while. So we'll renew our mind every once in a while. Maybe we'll do it in the morning, but we're not going to renew our mind like several times a day. We're not going to renew our mind every time we break our boundaries. And here's the thing, that's not enough for the truth to sink in. We've got to renew consistently for the truth to sink in. I tried that for years. I just renew my mind, every once in a while about food. And food was still in control of me during those years. It wasn't until I made the commitment, you know what? I'm going to start renewing every time I feel like breaking my boundaries. That's when I really started breaking free. Okay, and that's the last option. Last option is keep trying to follow our boundaries, but persevere in God's strength by asking God to help us follow our boundaries and then renew our mind either every time we feel like breaking them or several times a day. So a lot of people tell me they renew proactively. So they'll renew breakfast, lunch, supper, or, late afternoon. And of course, you're not going to have to do that for the rest of your lives, guys, but just you'll have to do it for long enough to really get those truths so solid in your mind that it's going to be a long-lasting change. So now let me ask you a question. Which option do you think would give you the best hope for lasting success with following your boundaries? And that also translates to lasting success with weight loss. Okay, I'm guessing we'd all say the fifth option, right? That's going to give us our best chance. Oh, let me ask you another question. Which option is the hardest option? Well, it's also the fifth option, right? So we kind of have to get it into our minds that, the fifth option is the hardest option. It is going to take some work to really change the way we think about food to break free, but it's going to be worth it because that also gives us the best success of following our boundaries. So let's try renewing our mind right now on this podcast episode. And I'm going to use one of the renewing exercises in the book. So I have 100 renewing exercises and Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating, and each of them have a title. And there are 4 sections, and one of the sections is kind of like the weight loss failure section. It's the section when things aren't going well. Okay, so with this renewing exercise, and I have several different ways to renew in the book, but this one is going to be truth journaling. So I'm going to have 5 beliefs written down in the book, and then you'll have to write the truth for each belief. And I've found these beliefs from my own journal. Okay, these are things I wrote down that I believe, but I also found them from coaching other women and also interviewing others, because what I realize is that each of us, we believe a lot of the same beliefs, but depending on our personality, our upbringing, that sort of thing, we also have different lies that trip us up. So I've collected all these lies that I've used for the truth journaling exercises in the book from other people and from myself. Okay, so I'm going to give you a belief. You can stop the podcast and say to yourself, what truth would you put to this belief? And then I'll tell you what truth I would put for the belief. Okay, here's my first one. I'm a failure because I can't stick to my eating plan. Okay, here's what I would write for the truth for that one. I am not a failure. I am a person who failed today at following my boundaries. And as I said earlier, this is normal. I will fail. The question is, what will I do after I fail? Anytime I stop, it's a victory. So if I stop after eating 7 donuts, that's a victory because I could have had 8 donuts, right, guys? Renewing my mind will help me stop. Lord, please help me develop this habit of renewing every time I break my boundaries. And when I truth journal, I often do add a little prayer. I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but you can go ahead and do that if you want to. Okay, number 2, it's terrible to be an overweight person. Okay, write down what you would write for the truth. Here's what I wrote. War is terrible. Child abuse is terrible. Famine is terrible. Being overweight is unpleasant, not terrible. Lord, help me to be thankful for the blessings I have and see myself through your eyes. The truth is our bodies are wonderful. If we can walk, well, then we're blessed. If we can move our arms, we're blessed. If we can read words or if we can listen to the podcast, we're blessed. There's all kinds of great things about our body. We're not just all about our weight. Okay, let's look at the next belief. I am not worthy in the eyes of the world. Here's what I would write. I may not be worthy in the eyes of the world I've drummed up in my mind, but that is not the real world. While it's true that our culture seems to be obsessed with skinny, it's not true that the people in our world are obsessed with skinny. Most people care how they themselves look. Some, maybe few, people care how their kids or spouses or boyfriends, girlfriends look. But very few care about how anyone else looks. What they really care about is how I interact with them, how I treat them, and my character. Those are the things God cares about. Seek to please God, not man. And think about that too. Think about the people you love in your life. Why do you love them? Do you love them because you're skinny? Or do you love them because how they interact with you and who they are as a person? Okay, let's look at the 4th belief. I have to be skinny or I'm an utter failure. This is what I put for that. This is so untrue. There are so many parts to who I am. I'm a person who, and of course this can be different for everybody. You guys will have to, put in what it is for you. I guess I wrote down what I am. I'm a person who likes to hike. I like doing puzzles. I enjoy visiting with strangers. I love helping people grow. To say that I'm a failure objectifies me and turns me into just a body. Don't do that. Be thankful for how God made me and all the gifts He's given me. Okay, let's look at the last one. People will like me better if I'm skinny. Okay, the truth is, this is the truth I would write, the vast majority of people out there could care less what I weigh. The only person I can think of that might like me better if I'm skinny is, and then you would fill in the blank on this one. Because a lot of times when we believe lies like people like me better if we're skinny, we're actually just thinking of 1 or 2 people in our lives. So if you're going to truth journal something like that, it'd be better to truth journal with that specific person in mind. And a lot of times, if there is a person in life who likes us if we're better if we're skinny, it could be somebody who's somehow connected to us, like a parent, a spouse, or child, who struggles with insecurity, and one way they get their security is by the people they're with. And so they might want us to be skinny to help them be more secure. You know what I mean? So if this is the case, then here, another truth I would write is, this is his or her problem, not mine. And God doesn't want him or her to be proud. So this is a good trial for that person to work on their pride. Okay, it's also true that some people might like me better if I'm overweight, as some people are intimidated or jealous of skinny people. And you know what, guys? We don't want to cater to that either. The truth is, I will feel much happier at a lower weight. God wants me to accept myself as I am, but he also wants me to work towards being healthy. Okay, so do you guys see how writing the truth would change my desires? Truth really does set us free. It makes us want to follow our boundaries. So when we break our boundaries and we're kind of going into that weight loss failure mode, it's essential to see ourselves through God's eyes rather than our own self-condemning eyes or the imagined eyes of a society who we think condemns us, even though most of them don't. So God doesn't look at us and say, you're a weight loss failure. No, he looks at us and says, you're my beloved child, you're my beautiful creation, or even you're my friend. And then he says, come to me, my beloved, and let me help you. So renewing is a way we go to God for help with changing the things we can't change in our own strength. Okay, so I've actually written all this up in the blog posts. It goes with this podcast episode. So if you want to look at those truths again, you can look there. Also, don't forget to sign up for those pre-order bonuses. Go to saygoodbyetoemotionaleating.com if you'd like to sign up for those. I hope you guys develop a renewing habit. If you haven't already, this is the book that I wrote to help you make it a little bit easier to develop a renewing habit. You know, throughout the years, I think back to how much God has changed me through the renewing of the mind. I'm so thankful for what he's done, and I know how much more he still has to do in my life and also in your life. So hope you guys have a good week. I will be out again next week. We'll have another podcast episode next week on how to break free from emotional eating. I will talk to you then.